Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is a really special session, I think, and it's a meeting of minds that I've been looking forward to for a long time, actually, between people outside Chinese medicine to Chinese medicine, and an appreciation from people such as Satish about ecology and Chinese medicine, and I'm sure in questions later, appreciation from Chinese medicine and what Satish is going to say in terms of ecology. Satish is the longest serving editor of a magazine in the UK, of Resurgence magazine. I don't know if you've read Resurgence magazine. I'm a subscriber. There's others here, I'm sure. I'm nodding. It's a great magazine. They have got a stand outside. I'm not ashamed to plug it. I think it's a fantastic magazine. Have a look at that. And also Satish is going to be here until 4:30, and then he has to leave. You've got only half an hour over tea to get him to sign a book or something like that, or have a chat. It's a real honour to have Satish here. We are filming it for posterity. You might have seen the interview that Karen did with Satish in the Accu magazine, which also went through some of these themes that I think of connectivity that I talked about at the start. So welcome, Satish. It's a privilege and a pleasure. And over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a great pleasure for me to be part of your wonderful Infinite Variety Conference. Beautiful title. And I think we can just dwell on that title, and that would be a wonderful thing. I'm not an acupuncturist. I am a patient, but not a practitioner. And therefore, it is a very great privilege to be here and speak to you, even though I am not an expert on acupuncture. But what attracts me to acupuncture, and similarly other Chinese traditional medicine or Indian traditional medicine or even British traditional medicine, which was very herbal and very holistic, is that it's very gentle. The Western allopathic modern medicine is very aggressive, very violent. And as someone who comes from a Jain tradition, which is an Indian religion, very much part of that religion is non-violence. Not aggressive, but gentle. And that, in acupuncture, in herbal medicines, in homeopathy, in massage, all the kind of what some people call complementary medicine, but in my view, these systems have their own fulsome, wholesome, long-standing tradition. They are not just complementing the Western medicine. It's a kind of term that people use as a complementary, just as a kind of compromising. But we are not necessarily complementing Western medicine. This traditional way of healing has its own complete science, complete philosophy, and a long-standing experience, much longer than any Western medicine. Western medicine, they experiment a few years in labs and then produce a medicine just to treat the symptoms. And after 5 years, that medicine is out of date. Another medicine. That's 2 years, out of date. Another medicine. There's no long history of development. Whereas we have developed our systems of healing over thousands of years. And therefore, that variety that you are talking about is diversity. And diversity is something we need to embrace. Diversity does not mean division. Diversity is complementary to unity. Through unity, we embrace diversity, and through diversity, we embrace unity. For example, in your acupuncture system. You are all practitioners of acupuncture, but every person's treatment will have its own quality. Because you bring your own spirit, your own soul, your own imagination, your own heart in it. And that cannot be repeated. That cannot be kind of copied. You cannot copy a great healer, a great master, a great teacher. If you have yoga teacher, they might be doing same kind of positions and a kind of postures. But each yoga teacher and each yoga practitioner develop their own system of practicing yoga. Meditation is the same. There is no one standard kind of meditation that somebody can give you. Each and every one of us have to develop our own way of meditation. And the same with cooking. You can have potatoes, but each person cooking potatoes will be different. And there are 1,000 ways of cooking potatoes, 1,000 ways. So that variety is to be celebrated. The diversity to be celebrated. But in our modern materialistic world, we see diversity and variety as divisions. So we say, oh, I'm a Hindu, you are a Muslim, I'm a Christian, you are Jew. We are separate, we are divided. No, it's wonderful not to have just one religion in the world for 7 billion people. It's wonderful to have Hindus and Muslims and Buddhists and Aboriginal people and indigenous people and whatever religion you are coming from. It's wonderful. That variety and diversity is to be celebrated. In the same way, languages. We don't want everybody in the world, 7 billion people, speaking English or French or Russian or German or Spanish. We want to have many, many languages. So this idea of variety and diversity is at the core of holistic philosophy. Holistic is to see diversity in the context of unity. So we all breathe. So our breath is same. We are all connected through our breath. Whoever you are, whether you are Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Russian or American or black or white or man or woman or child, whatever you are, we all breathe the same air. We breathe the same water. So there is a kind of unity of life. Life is one, but manifestation of that life in millions and millions and trillions of forms. That is the beauty and the beauty of the design of this universe, to have that diversity and that variety. So within that context, what I would like to see is that we go beyond, and that is why I'm attracted towards systems of healing such as acupuncture or similar other holistic forms of medicine and holistic forms of healing, is that it goes beyond technique. It goes beyond physical healing. Because I was listening to the Dalai Lama last weekend, 19th of September. Had a huge gathering of people, 10,000 people in O2 Stadium, Millennium Stadium. And he was saying similar thing, what I feel, that our physical health is connected with our spiritual health, our mental health, our psychological health. If we are anxious, that anxiety will affect your physical presence and physical condition. If you are angry, all the time get angry, that will affect your physical health. That was Dalai Lama was saying, was confirming, but I always believed myself. If you are full of fear in your heart, that will affect your body. So when you are healing through acupuncture, through herbal medicine, through homeopathy, through massage, you are also helping people to understand their inner landscape. The outer and the inner are two sides of the same coin. You cannot just have outer without the inner. This building has outer walls, but in outer walls contain this wonderful room or many other rooms and dining room and sitting room and bedroom and kitchen and so on. So you create outer landscape, but within that outer landscape there's an inner landscape. And that inner landscape is the landscape of spirit, of soul, mind, emotions, even sentiments. And unless we are in balance with that, we are not going to be healthy just by having whatever kind of medicine, whatever kind of healing form that you practice. And therefore, but in our modern society and modern world, nobody will talk about inner world. Nobody will talk about soul or spirit. If you take newspaper, you will hardly find soul or spirit word in it. Every day, reams and reams and reams of papers are published. Radio, maybe they have a little slot for 3 minutes in 3-hour session of Today program, Thought for the Day. Sometimes they asked me to appear on that, and so I did appear. But the 3 minutes, and Mr. Kumar, you cannot go over a second over 3 minutes. So no time for soul. But politics, 3 hours. Economics, 3 hours. But soul, inner landscape, 3 minutes. And that's also kind of, people give a little bit of excuse because we are a Christian country and the Queen is the head of the church and therefore we have to have something, little bit of Christian or spiritual slot. But, or your television, your newspapers, and you listen to parliamentary discussions. All these kind of Prime Minister's question time, or the debate going on between various ministers and their shadow ministers. That hardly anybody talks about our inner landscape, our spirit, our soul, our mind, our emotions, our inner world. So healing, to accomplish healing, acupuncture, yes, herbal medicine, yes, but also you need happiness. You cannot be healthy and unhappy. To gain health, we need to be happy. What is the key to happiness? How do I be happy? Everybody wants to be happy, as everybody wants to be healthy. We all want to be happy. Happiness comes with acceptance of things as they are. You have a married husband and wife. Now, you have 2 sentiments. One sentiment is sentiment of acceptance of your spouse. As he is, as she is. I accept you as you are. And other sentiment is expectation. I expect you to be like that. And when you don't come up to my expectation, I'm unhappy. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated. I was expecting you to be on time. I was expecting you to prepare my lunch. I was expecting you to do washing up. I was expecting you to do this. Expectation is the way of frustration and anxiety and anger in the end. You get very angry because your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your neighbor, your colleague, whoever is you are in relationship with, is not coming up to your expectation. So, the way of healing and bringing happiness is to accept that, like this infinite variety, each and every person has a different way of being, different way of doing, different way of acting. And so, the way you are, I accept you as you are. That's true love. True love is to accept the other as the other is without expectation to change, to suit you. When you fall in love in the beginning of your youth, and I think we should fall in love even when we are old. And I think you can fall in love even when you have been married to your husband or wife for 20, 30, 40 years, like I have been married for 43 years to my wife. And I want to fall in love every day. Falling in love was not when I was young and foolish. that I fell in love. I am always young to fall in love. And so, what is that? When you fell in love, first time, just remember, at that time, you accepted the other as the other was. You didn't fall in love because he was or she was, you can change this sex, he was or she was rich or poor or educated or less educated or whatever the quality. You fell in love with the person as the other person was and accepted that person. That needs to be a continuous process of life of healing. If you accept, then there is no anger. There is no anxiety. There is no frustration. There is no disappointment. Then you are at ease with yourself. Because your happiness is not depending on someone else's action. If your happiness is depending on someone else's action, it cannot last. Because you cannot control other person. You cannot control other person. So how the other person is behaving is not under your control. But how you respond to that behavior is under your control. So you and I need to decide, how am I going to respond to a situation which I didn't like, which didn't suit me, which was not to my liking. How do you respond to that situation? And that is where in Bhagavad Gita we say, Atmaiv Atmano Bandhu, Atmaiv Ripur Atmane, Uddharet Atmadatmanam, Natmanam Avasadayet. That's in Sanskrit. Atman is the self, the inner self, the soul. Uddharet Atmadatmanam. You must find your salvation, your enlightenment, your liberation from your own inner resources. Nobody else is going to give you enlightenment. Thich Nhat Hanh, Dalai Lama, Buddha, Jesus Christ, St. Francis, Mother Teresa, however great they were. But you have to find your own inner guru. That's Atmaiv Atmano Bandhu. The self is the self. Self is the guru of the self. And Atmaiv Ripur Atmane. And also the enemy of the self is also the self. And therefore, you need to light your inner candle. Of course, all the great teachers and masters, from Taoism to acupunctural teachers and homeopathic teachers and religious teachers and psychological teachers like C.G. Jung and Mother Teresa and St. Francis and Pope at the moment is wonderful. The new Pope is very good news, isn't it? It's a kind of breath of fresh air, new Pope, going into the Congress and speaking. They have to embrace refugees because you were refugees one day. We all came from Europe and here and there and everywhere, and now you say we can't have anybody else. How can you say that? We are one humanity. We are one earth, one humanity, one future. That's the first time I have heard Pope speaking so clearly and so openly in the Congress, and he's going to speak in the UN as well, at the UN as well. And he's saying that, and you cannot, this war and war and war will create refugees. If you don't refugees, don't go to war. We had Afghanistan war, there are refugees. We have Iraq war, there are refugees. We have Syrian war, there are refugees. We have Libyan war, there are refugees. Millions of refugees come because of war. So Pope is saying that if you don't want refugees, don't go to war. But they all want to go to war, but they don't want refugees. How can you have that? So the Pope can say wonderful things, but what I consider healers and teachers and gurus are like a matches to light the candle. They help you to bring out your inner light, but the inner light is inside you. In the same way, the healing is inside you. The acupuncturist can just put a needle, or herbalist can give you a little herb, Chinese herb or English herb or whatever herb it is, he can give you. But the actual healing happens within yourself. And when you can heal yourself, that's a heal thyself, that's the Bhagavad Gita. Uddharet Atmadatmanam means heal thyself. How do you heal thyself? By living a non-aggressive life, a gentle life, a life which is calm and creative and imaginative and kind of where you are able to offer yourself in the service of the earth and a service of the humanity. And so acupuncturists, as acupuncturists, you are bringing that service and a sense of service, bringing this profession and vocation together. A pure professional acupuncture is not enough. That's mostly in NHS. Sometimes you are forced to be just professional. But professional and vocational attitude must come together. The marriage of professional and vocational. Because when you are vocational, you are not treating someone just to earn a living. You are not treating someone just so that you can pay your bills. You are treating someone because your heart is full of empathy, sympathy, sense of service, sense of giving, sense of love, you can say. So when a patient comes with pain, your heart is full of compassion for that person. That's the true healer. When you have a compassion in your heart and the needle in your hand, that's the kind of bringing the profession and vocation together. Needle in your hand and compassion in your heart. If you have needle in your hand and no compassion in your heart, won't work. If you have compassion in your heart with no needle in your hand, it won't work either. You need both. This is why I say the combination of profession and vocation together with that compassionate heart. So then, when you bring your compassion and your needle together, then the person who is coming to you in this need, this pain, this suffering, they will start to heal themselves. Because you and that person are not too separate. The objective and subjective seems to be kind of separated in our modern industrial materialistic world. We say subject and object are separate. But subject and object are not separate. Subject cannot exist without the object. An object cannot exist without the subject. Healer cannot exist without the healed. And the healed cannot exist without the healer. They are two brought together. So without the person, the pain, the suffering, the person who is coming to you has no pain, no suffering, there will be no need of acupuncturist. You will all be made redundant. So you need to say thank you. Even the pain, thank you. You are giving me this opportunity. You are giving me this kind of a privilege. It's my privilege to come and help you. Mother Teresa goes to Calcutta, and old and dying and sick, and she says, thank you. Please, this is my great opportunity that you have given me to help you. I'm grateful to you. That humility of a doctor, that humility in a doctor, in an acupuncturist, in a healer, is the key to true healing. If you are arrogant and say, I'm doctor, I'm healer, I'm acupuncturist, I know so much, you don't know anything, I'm going to put needles in you and you will be better. You have to drop that arrogance, and you have to become like Jesus Christ, like St. Francis. You have to become so humble that, oh, thank you for coming to me. How kind of you to trust me that I can put some needles in your body and you will take everything. How kind of you. So that kind of tremendous humility will heal the person. Your humility, your needle will help, but your humility and your compassion will heal the person. Put that relationship between you and the healed, healer and the healed. That relationship is so fundamental. Without that deep and profound spiritual relationship, and the money, of course, when I go to my acupuncturist, I put some money in the put on a check in the box. But that is only a byproduct. That is not the purpose of healing. That is not the aim of healing. That's not the purpose of acupuncture. The purpose of acupuncture is deeply spiritual. It's a very Taoist philosophy. And Taoist philosophy is so humble. The philosophy par excellence about humility is Tao. And Tao is the acupuncture. And so, what I feel that if we can bring this spiritual dimension in our acupuncture, spiritual dimension in our healing process, the spiritual dimension where you yourself are practicing humility and compassion and love, and with that heart you are projecting and in a kind of subtle way communicating and passing that humility and that gratitude to your patient, and then they will receive that and they will start to heal themselves. And then that self-heal body is a wonderful kind of mechanism. Mechanism is not a nice word because it's very mechanistic, but it's an organism, but it's a wonderful organism. The moment I get some cut or something, the blood rushes to heal it and make a little scab. And so body is very well suited. It's a kind of beautiful design. It's a kind of divine design of the body that it starts. But it only needs a little bit of help, like a candle needs the matches to be lit. A little bit of help from the acupuncturist, from you, that patient needs little help. But with that help, the light is inside the candle. The healing is inside the healer. Heal thyself. And so we don't need to think that I am the healer, I am the doctor, I am superior. No, we are one. We are on the equal stage. Without one, other cannot exist. But our modern kind of Western philosophy started by René Descartes, who wrote a book called, or who wrote an idea called, I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum. And it's a famous Cartesian dualism, where you separate the mind and the matter. And you say mind over matter. Whereas non-dualistic is mind and matter, not mind over matter, but mind and matter, mind and spirit, mind, body and soul together. That's a kind of balance. So I wrote a book in response to Cartesian dualism. I wrote a book called You Are, Therefore I Am. Not I think, therefore I am, but you are, therefore I am. If the you audience not here, where will the speaker be? Nowhere. You make me the speaker. So the person who comes to be healed to you as a patient makes you the acupuncturist. So that unity, this infinite variety, and within that infinite variety, there's a unity. And that unity of relationship, bringing these together, separate. So we say Americans are separate from Russians, or Hindus are separate from Muslims, or whatever. Humans are separate from nature. And that's the big Western materialistic mistake that we have made, that the nature out there. And we don't we think nature is only there to serve our need. We are nature. Whatever we do to our trees and the forests and the oceans and the rivers, we do to ourselves. So the Taoist philosophy of acupuncture is to see humanity and nature as one. And like we don't talk about soul, we don't talk about soil, or we take nature for granted. And as we are aggressive in our healing system, we are also very aggressive on our relationship with the nature. Look at the way animals are treated in factory farms. Thousands of animals they are milked by robots, and they never see the light of the day. Always kept in confinement. Look at the rainforest. The way we are destroying rainforest. Acres and acres, thousands and thousands of acres are destroyed every week, every day, every month. Look at the way we are polluting our oceans. The plastic islands are emerging. The result of all that pollution and waste is global warming and climate change. So we cannot separate ourselves. We will be the affected. This is what Pope is also talking about, climate change. And so we have one earth, one humanity, one future. So our relationship with the natural world has to be central to our occupation and our profession and our vocation of acupuncture and our healing and our treating our patients. Because if you are not living in nature, if you don't go for walking, somebody was asking me, I'm 79 this year, next year will be my 80th birthday. I say, how do you keep this energy? how do you keep so healthy? I said, every day I walk. I go out in nature. And I'm so grateful and so delighted and so happy to be under the trees, to be happy to be by the shore of the ocean, to see the butterflies, to see the wildflowers, primroses and bluebells. When you go there, you are healed. Healing is not only in a room, on a couch. That is good, that is necessary on an emergency. But every day, the healer and the healed, we both have to go out in nature. Look at the flowers, appreciate the flowers. Look at the birds and appreciate the butterflies and the bees and how they pollinate and they relate to each other. Unless we are reconnected with nature and we see our relationship with nature, our healing will not be complete. Sometimes we get this a bit of a narrow view of healing, a narrow view of treatment. We need to expand that. As I mentioned, spiritual dimension, I also want to emphasize the ecological dimension of our healing. So nature is the greatest healer. This is where all the kind of herbs come from. And even the Western medicine is ultimately come from the nature. They are derived, they are chemicalized, and they are kind of made worse. But originally, originally they come from nature. So if we go directly in nature and take care of our soil and food which is coming from nature, if that food is organic and healthy and the soil is looked after without chemicals, without fertilizers, without pesticide, without herbicide, because all those poisons are going to affect your food. All the sprays which you put on fruit and so on, strawberries and raspberries, if you spray that, that spray will stay on there. It's not. I have 2 acres of garden and not a single chemical is ever used for the last 35 years that I've been gardening in Devon. And so I think our relationship with the natural world and a kind of organic, ecological, sustainable, kind of natural living is an essential ingredient of the philosophy of acupuncture. We cannot be reductionist, and we cannot say that just putting needles in the body is the be-all and end-all. It is not. It is one way, but you have to see the context of life. Like I said, emotions and inner life, in the same way, our relationship with the natural world. And if we can have that healthy nature, healthy soil, healthy planet, if you have a sick planet, global warming, climate change, pollution, you cannot have a healthy body, healthy humans. Because planet and humans are connected. There's no separation. So in order to have a healthy people, we need to have a healthy planet. So, and then the other dimension I would like is society, the social dimension. The social dimension is that if you have tremendous inequality and tremendous kind of conflicts and tremendous poverty and tremendous exploitation and subjugation of other people and no freedom and no good life of people, then communities affect each other. We are not isolated beings that I can be healthy in my home and I can go to my acupuncturist and get my herbal medicine and get my homeopathic medicine and that's it. We are not only connected with nature, we are also connected with our human society. So we also need to have love, compassion, like the Dalai Lama and the Pope are talking about, and many, many great, wonderful teachers throughout the history have talked about. And actually, if you look at the world, the news is always bad news. But there is lots of good in the world, in our society. Lots of good. If you take war, there are 7 billion people upon this earth. How many people are engaged in war? Maybe 7 million or 700,000? Few. But the 6 billion plus people are engaged in good work. Doctors are looking after their patients, nurses are looking after their patients, mothers are looking after babies, children are going to school, teachers are teaching, farmers are growing food, craftsmen are making furniture and beautiful pots. And so billions and billions of people are doing good work. But that's not news. News is only when some murder takes place. But if you compassionately heal somebody, help somebody, it's not news. But if you hit somebody or kill somebody, it's news. So we must not get too depressed by reading all the newspapers and think the world is falling to pieces. Because I want you to remain optimistic. I want you to remain hopeful because our work, what you are doing, you may be only a small community of healers, a small community of acupuncturists, but you are the salt of the earth. And there are many, many people like you in different forms are doing some good work in the world. So we must take heart. But within that context, we should also say that we have to work to reduce our exploitation, reduce our conflicts. So sometimes conflicts are in the name of religion. Catholics and Protestants fight, Shias and Sunnis fight, followers of Vishnu and Shiva fight. So many kind of divisions, even in the name of religion. In the name of politics, capitalists and communists fight each other, or Labour and Tories fight each other, or the Republicans and Democrats fight each other. So this kind of conflict in our society, unless we can reduce that conflict and create a more harmonious world, and it's a journey. There's no state when you can say one day we will reach that state completely, when the whole world will be 100% harmonious, 100% healed, 100% perfect. There's no such utopia. So it is our responsibility to offer ourselves to heal individuals, heal society, heal communities, heal nature. And in that healing and harmony, we can be happy together. So these are kind of a few thoughts, personal level, ecological level, social level, and spiritual level. These are the kind of levels we have to work together. All these levels go together. There's no one level where you can do and everything else will be okay. We need to work together on our physical level, and on our spiritual level, and on our ecological level, and on our social level at the same time. So then I think our philosophy of acupuncture, philosophy of healing, philosophy of harmony will be much more effective. It will be much more, you can call it even successful. One single dimensional way, like William Blake talked about, single view. So it's a holistic view. Because we in our body take breath, not only through our nostril, but through our whole body. And that's the holistic approach. Everything is connected. Everything is related. We are all interconnected. Only connect. That was E.M. Foster's famous phrase. Only connect. We are all related. We are all connected. With that worldview, if we work and offer our service and take joy in it, take pleasure in it. If a patient comes to you and you have healed and you have done your acupuncture and they say, thank you for helping me, I'm sure you say, it's my pleasure. And that's a very important word in English language. One of the best expressions of English language is that when you do something and somebody thanks you, you say, it's my pleasure. If you make me a cup of tea and I thank you, you say, Satish, it's my pleasure. And that's a wonderful expression. So you do your acupuncture not only to heal the person who needs your healing, but for your own pleasure, for your own happiness. If there's nobody came to you for healing, you will not be happy. You will say, what am I doing? Nobody's coming to me. So you need to feel that pleasure that somebody has come to you. So take joy in your work. Joy is the source of health. Joy is the source of relationship. Joy is the source of service. So you do service, you do acupuncture, not only to heal someone else, but also for your own healing, for your own satisfaction, for your own fulfillment. You feel that I'm useful. How good it is that I'm being of the service to someone who needs me. Mother Teresa goes to help this dying and sick with great pleasure. It's my pleasure to help this dying and sick. When Mahatma Gandhi goes to jail for the independence of India, he says to the magistrate in the court that I'll go to prison like a bride goes to wedding chamber. Pleasure. Going to jail with pleasure. He doesn't say, I'm not guilty. He says, I am guilty of breaking your unjust an immoral law. And therefore, please send me to jail. Until your law is removed, I want to be in jail, not outside. So, can you do your acupuncture to heal the other, but also for your own pleasure? When you can bring these two together, then you will be happy, you will be healthy yourself, and you will be healed yourself, and then your healthiness, your happiness, and your healedness will radiate. You will be like a radiator giving heat. You will radiate your happiness and your healing, and the patient coming to you will be also healed and will also be happy and will also be in harmony. Thank you very much. Okay, so I have some questions. Yes, thank you.
Okay, that was amazing. Questions from, I think we've got someone with a mic, I hope.
Say my name.
Yes.
I was going to break into song then. Hello, Satish. Is it true that you, I don't know much about you, but I heard a rumour that you walked all over. Did you walk around the world or something?
That's right.
And did you deliver presents to people all over the world? Was that one of the things that you did? Can you tell me a little bit about that? I'm fascinated.
Okay. I didn't mention, because I thought we are going to talk about healing and acupuncture, but walking is a great healer, and when you are walking bare feet, you get reflexology. The inspiration to walk around the world came from Britain. I was 25 years old, living in India, in a city called Bangalore. And one day, I went with a friend for coffee. And I read a piece of news that famous philosopher, mathematician, Lord Bertrand Russell, protesting against the nuclear weapons, has been arrested and put in jail. When I read that, I said, wow, he's a man of 90 going to jail for peace in the world. What am I doing, young man, sitting here drinking coffee? So I talked with my friend, and both of us got very inspired, and we decided that we will walk to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington, D.C., the 4 nuclear capitals of the world. And then we went to see our teacher, our guru, Vinoba Bhave, great Gandhian, sage, scholar, wonderful man. And he was our teacher. And he said, if you are going for peace in the world, you have to go trust in your heart. And how do you demonstrate that you trust? How do you show that you trust? You go without any money in your pocket. And I said, any money? Sometimes we do a cup of tea or write a postcard or make a telephone call. He said, no money at all. See what happens. This is my advice to you, is to go, because the wars begin in fear. And peace begins in trust. And you have to show that not only you are talking about peace, but you are trusting and you are sort of embodiment of peace. So, Guru's advice, you have to take it. Yeah, you have to take it. And so with my friend and I, we walked from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi in New Delhi, and we walked through Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Russia, Moscow. On the way to Moscow in Armenia, I mean, we had wonderful, many stories, but this one story which I think you mentioned. We used to give a leaflet describing the purpose of our walk and the route of our walk and why we are carrying no money, and therefore we are very grateful to have any hospitality. So we gave this leaflet to 2 young ladies standing in front of a tea factory. And when they read this flyer, they started to talk to us. And they said, come and have a cup of tea in our canteen. We have a lunch break at this moment. So we went in and we sat down in the canteen, and they brought us tea, and they brought us some bread and some other things to eat. And then suddenly, one of the women had a brainwave. She went out of the room and came back with 4 packets of tea and said to us that these packets of tea are not for you. So I said, for whom are they? If you are giving to us. She said, I would like you to be my ambassador of peace. And I would like you to give 1 packet to our premier in the Kremlin in Moscow, 2nd one to the president of France, the 3rd one to the prime minister of England, and 4th one to the president of the United States of America. And please give them a message from me. You are my messenger. Because I can't get there. I'm a poor young woman here working in my tea factory. I can't go. But you are walking to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington. Please give them a message from me. What is your message? My message to them is that if you ever get a mad thought of pressing the nuclear button, please stop for a moment and have a fresh cup of tea. I was so touched. I could not believe my ears. I said, what a message from this little village in Armenia with 2 ordinary women. They are the most extraordinary women that I have met. And so we took the packets and we walked. And we walked to Moscow and delivered the packet in the Kremlin. And we walked to Paris, we walked to London, we walked to Washington and in the White House as well. And so that was a kind of symbolic journey, but wonderful 2.5 years without a penny in the pocket, walking, people joining, media, universities, churches, politicians, everywhere. And then we heard the great speech by Martin Luther King. That great speech he gave in Washington, I Have a Dream speech. And so when I arrived in New York, I wrote a letter to Martin Luther King. So, Dr. King, you have a great dream. I have a small dream. And my dream is to meet you. And he wrote back. When I arrived in Washington at the embassy, Indian embassy, there was a letter waiting for me. And he said, I heard about your work and I am inspired by Gandhi and of your country of India and visited India. And so if you have worked for peace, come and see me. And so we went to meet Martin Luther King. That was one of our highlights, to meet Martin Luther King. And he said to us, non-violence I'm using to protest against racial discrimination. But it's not just for protest. Non-violence is a way of life. Non-violence is not only a weapon to protest, it's a way of life. You have to be inside yourself, compassionate and kind and non-violent. So that was a wonderful meeting. And so it was a great journey. And I've written a book called No Destination. And I also made a film for the BBC too, called Earth Pilgrim. So it's a pilgrimage to the earth. And so you can get a copy of my book. It's stored there. Thank you. Question there. Yeah. There.
Hello.
Yes.
Considering the amazing twinkle you have in your eye at the age of 79,
Yeah.
I wondered what your top tips for health are.
Okay. As I said, I love walking in nature and try to be happy within myself. Whatever I was speaking to you, I try to practice. But one tip that I think perhaps the cause of my health is I try to live in the present moment. Because when you worry about the past, you worry. It's kind of shoulders are heavy with the worry. And doesn't help. The past is gone. You can't bring it back. You can't undo it, whatever has been done. And so, future is the same. You plan, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to get there, but things don't work out as you plan. And so I have a kind of formula in my life. I say about 10% of my time and attention will be for the past. Because you have to have some memory. So 10%, enough. Maybe 15%, a little bit of planning. like I have to come to Nottingham, I had to know when I'm going. It's a little bit of planning. But 75% of my attention and time should be in the present moment. Live now, and live well, and live with pleasure and joy. That's the kind of source of the twinkle in my eye. I don't see my twinkle. There's a question here.
I absolutely I adore you already. So, I only recently, in the last few years, became an acupuncturist, and it was very much a vocational thing. It was like no decision; it was a path. Had to do it, and I've also made attempts in the last couple of years to get involved in politics. I stood as a Green local candidate to the Green Party and stuff. But I found that that mixture very hard to sustain, of putting that energy outside and getting involved in politics and being a therapist. And I've sort of put that aside for now. But what I just wanted to ask you about arts and creativity and so on, just because recently I was at the Small is Beautiful festival at the Centre for Alternative Technology, and alongside the talks and workshops and there was a lot of artistic and creativity and ways of expressing that were different. And so I wondered if what you have to say about that, because it feels really important. So music and theatre and all of those things as well.
The art, the greatest art is the art of living. And all the other arts of painting, music, architecture, dance, singing, they all emerge out of the art of living. And when you have an art of living, then art is not just a fine art as defined by the society or the galleries or the concert halls or the ballet theaters, but how you make everything. And so if you are not copying, if you are not just following the rules or recipe books, but you are doing something from your own heart and your own imagination and your own creativity, then everything you do becomes art. So your gardening is beautiful art, because you are not just doing what rule books or gardening books tell you, but you are doing it with your own experience, and you are improvising, and you are experimenting, and you are doing something with your own creativity. Cooking becomes a beautiful art, and like Fernley Whittingstall is an artist. He's an artist. So you can be an artist in every field. So artist is not a special kind of person, but every person is a special kind of artist if we use our imagination. But if you always consult the recipe book or gardening book or do what is written there, and do not, even when you go to school to learn painting or illustrating or drawing, they tell you some rules, they teach you, but ultimately you have to forget the rules. And you have to find your own way of illustrating, your own way of painting, your own way of designing. And so when it comes from your own heart, then you become an artist. And so I would say we should not separate arts and crafts and life as a kind of separate compartments. We are all artists. We are all poets. The word poiesis, poet, that means maker. Art means maker. Art is to make with your hands. So poet is also maker. Poiesis, autopoiesis means self-maker. So when you do something with imagination and your presence and your heart and your full attention, then everything you do becomes poetry. It's not just a few beautiful words on a page. There's a poetry. That is poetry, of course, Shakespeare and William Blake and Ted Hughes and all these wonderful poets. But you are a poet. Everybody who can make something Acupuncture is a poetry. When you do it with creativity, with imagination, with presence, with meditation, you are fully there with your compassion, with your heart in it. You are a great acupuncturist. People will write about it, or even if they don't write, doesn't matter. You are a great artist. So acupuncture can be a great art. So we must not divide art and life in that way. So that only if you are a painter, you are an artist, I'm an acupuncturist, I'm not an artist. I would like you to practice acupuncture as a form of art. James Lovelock practices science as art form. He writes about it. He says, my science is art. I'm not separating art and science together separately. So truth, beauty, and goodness come together. Truth, goodness, and beauty. In Sanskrit, we say Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. So truth is about science, but goodness is about your compassion, your heart. And the beauty comes from art. And so if you can combine your imagination, creativity, every work you do, it will become art. So I would like you to practice acupuncture as an artist and not as a kind of just a professional. And when you bring profession and vocation together, you are an artist. Because an artist doesn't think, how am I going to earn money, or how much this painting will sell for, or how much. No, when he's painting or she's painting, just painting. At that time, there's nothing. No money, no commerce, no gallery in the mind. It's afterwards. So in the same way, when you are practicing your acupuncture, at that time, money does not play any role, or anything else doesn't play any role. Just your heart and your imagination and your presence is fully there. And that's art. Okay. Yes, please.
Struck by what you say about war coming from fear and peace. I think you said comes from love.
Yes.
I think that's what you said.
Yes.
I was unfortunate enough to have a brush with Western medicine earlier this year after 40 years without, and was very struck by the fear that it's driven by. And I think one of the things that we give is love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to...
Yeah. So I think true healing, like peace, harmony, and true healing and true health, dropping of fear is a prerequisite. If you have fear, you cannot be whole. You cannot be healed. Fear is the greatest source of illness. Physical illness, mental illness, psychological illness, relationship illness, all kinds of damage is done by fear. So if I had fear, how am I going to find food? How am I going? Nobody might give me any shelter. If I fear, I will not leave home. I had to trust that something will happen. Universe will provide. When I was born, I did not come with PhD or any skills or anything. But the moment I'm born, the universe, the benevolent universe, puts healing and nurturing and nourishing milk in the breasts of my mother. Where did it come from? Trust. I did not have fear, but baby has no fear. So the benevolent universe provides everything. Food does not come from Tesco or Sainsbury's. Food comes from the soil. And it's in the forest, wild food. We have forgotten to collect food, wild food. You plant one seed in the ground, 1,000 fruits, 1,000 apples come for 50 years. So we have to trust the benevolent universe. We have to trust our mothers. We have to trust our parents and children. We have to trust our husbands and wives. We have to trust our neighbors. We have to trust. And even if you are cheated, still trust. I don't like to lock my car. I don't like to lock my house. I say, even if somebody steals something, that's one time, 1% of the stealing is more acceptable to me than 99% of the time when nobody's stealing and yet I'm afraid. Fear. So if somebody does something wrong, I will accept that more than the fear I accept in my heart. And so fear is the big, big problem in our society. We are so kind of paralyzed by fear. And so healing, this is why I think the illness, physical illness, mental illness, they're all related with fear. So if you want healing to happen, trust. All will be well, St. Julian of Norwich said. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. Even if things are going wrong, it's for some purpose. Accept it. Yeah, if something going wrong, still will be well. If I die, it's fine. When I was leaving India for my journey around the world, one of my friend was in tears when she came to say goodbye. And I said, why are you in tears? I'm going, you are not going. Why are you crying? He said, Satish, you are going without money, without food. Communist countries, capitalist countries, Muslim countries, Christian countries, deserts, mountains, forests, wild animals. I don't know you will come back alive. She was in fear. I was going, but she was in fear. I said, Kranti, if I die while walking for peace, that will be the best kind of death I have. Don't worry. I've dropped the fear of death. If I don't get the food, I'll say, this is my opportunity to fast. If I don't get shelter, I'll say, I'll sleep under a 1-million-star hotel. Who wants a 5-star hotel when you can sleep under a 1-million-star hotel? And so you speak to your heart. Your right hemisphere of the brain tells you to the left hemisphere. The heart tells you to your brain, the trust. All shall be well. In the end, all shall be well. It's a benevolent universe. The sun will shine, the rain will come, the wind will come, the mother will give birth to a child, there will be milk in the breast, you put the seed in the ground, and there will be food from the soil. We are looked after. Do not worry. Everything will be well. This is a kind of trust that we need to cultivate. And when you trust, we become ill, okay, then we have some acupuncturists to go, but don't worry that I will become ill. Don't worry I become old. Don't worry I'll die. Whatever happens is for the good. That's a trust. Thank you. So,
that's absolutely fantastic. Just a possible kind of side from my point of view. I once worked in hospice and palliative care, and I could hear this radio for Peel, and we had Desmond Tutu on the line from South Africa, and I'd written this kind of slightly clunky piece about death and dying, and please to support us. And he took it. I just couldn't see him, but he took the script I had and just kind of obviously tore it up and talked like you did in terms of the real basics of love and compassion and positivity. And you really remind me of him. And, it's a real privilege. It's been absolutely fantastic. So thanks so much.
Thank you.